Innards, we are talking about She-Hulk. We are going to give our reviews of the episode and then get into a full spoiler breakdown of the episode starting now. Welcome to the Nerd Social. I'm Nathan.
And I'm Colin.
Hey, coming to you a little later than we were planning to. Had some technical difficulties, and also we've been away for a little while, but we are eager to get into this episode. So, this episode's the title of this episode is A Normal Amount of Rage. It's the first episode of this season. We're going to get 9 episodes out of this season. The spoiler-free summary is Jen Walters' world is turned upside down after a freak accident leaves her with superpowers. So, Colin, what do you think of this episode? Episode 1 of She-Hulk.
Yeah, I think it was pretty solid overall. I think that it presented a lot of different layers. There was comedy, there was drama, there was realization, there was cheekiness. So there was a lot of different balls they kind of put up in the air to kind of get the audience hooked to the first episode, and also there was definitely some elements where it was somewhat surprising as well throughout the episode, and also there's some implications. We'll get into that of the greater MCU multiverse saga that they're trying to create. So there's some of that as well in it, and I really it was just fun. It was very enjoyable and fun. Kind of reminded me a lot of WandaVision, where it was they were able to kind of let loose a little bit and have some humor, but there was definitely a lot of, not heavy-handed, but there was definitely a lot of drama as well that makes you think throughout the episode. So good balance between the comedy and the drama that they were trying to play overall.
Yeah, I liked it quite a bit as well. There has been complaining on the internet already about this show. And there are even people that like the show that are overcorrecting, just expecting the complaining because the protagonist of the show is a woman. But I don't see any of the issues that I don't see any of the issues that people are complaining about in this episode. I mean, it wasn't like a 10 out of 10 for me, but like it was solid, like 7.5 or 8. For me, it was a good start. With potential to be better or show us more interesting things in the future. I know that we got somewhat of an origin story without spoiling too much. I mean, the log line sort of tells you we're going to get an origin story, but the rest of the show isn't going to be like that. It's basically going to be a lawyer show, which they sort of mentioned in this episode as well. So that might be why people have some issues with this episode. I don't know, but like I liked it. I thought it was funny enough. I think the other criticism that people have been levying against it is that this is supposed to be like a comedy, like as opposed to like the comedy that shows up in all MCU stuff. This is like supposed to be like a straight comedy, and for some people, some of the jokes weren't hitting as hard as they should for a pilot like comedy. But and I will give them that. I wasn't like laughing out loud. Well, there's something that happens at the later on in the episode, and we can talk about when we get into the spoiler stuff. That did have me laughing out loud. But yeah, it was. I guess the comedy could have been stronger, but like I think one of the writer of this episode is Jessica Gao, who was a writer in Rick and Morty. She won an Emmy for that show. I think she wrote the Pickle Rick episode.
Oh wow, yeah,
specifically, and other things as well. This was directed by Kat Coiro. I think I think that sorry, what's her name? Tatiana Maslany did an excellent job as Jen Walters, as well as She-Hulk. There's a little bit of modulation between the two, but not a lot, because she's using her voice, and I think she also did some of the mocap stuff. So I enjoyed it quite a bit. From the thumbnail, you can actually see that Mark Ruffalo also shows up in this episode, which and he does a good job as well. So all in all, I had a good time, and it was not as serious as some of the other stuff, which was fine. Like, it was, like you said, it was kind of like the beginning of WandaVision, without the sinister elements that are below. It was kind of played like a straight comedy. So yeah, I had a good time with it, and I'm looking forward to having the stakes not be as high as some of the other shows. Like, I think we talked about this when we were reviewing Miss Marvel. They didn't really need to have like an end of the world threat in that show. It would have been fine without an end of the world threat, and hopefully they don't have an end of the world threat in this one either. It's just going to be like her trying to adjust to having her powers and also trying to do her job, which is fine. Right. It's fine for a show, and it's interesting for a show. It's kind of like it's basically just basically a successor to Ally McBeal. So like,
it does.
Or one of my my favorite shows right now. Not The Good Place. The show The Good Wife. I think the spinoff. I forget what the spinoff's name is off the top of my head.
Was it? Yeah, I don't remember either.
Yeah, so it's actually in Paramount Plus. We have a couple screeners for that. Actually, review that show. But yeah, that's the kind of comedy they're going for, like lawyer show comedy. So I like it quite a bit. I'm looking forward to digging into some of the weird stuff that we saw in the trailers and in the coming weeks. Any other additions before we get into it's breaking it down?
Just one more thing is that the music was really well played. I think there was a good mixture of all sorts of musical genres, and also I very much like the Miami Vice motif. The title, the title. It's like She-Hulk, Attorney at Law. It's like very like Miami Vice. Yeah. Like L.A. Law, 80s.
Yes,
law,
it's very 80s.
Girl, so it's pretty cool overall.
Yeah. I think it's a fun time. Stakes are low. It's a fun time. All right, so with that, we should get into spoilers. But if you're enjoying the conversation, please like and subscribe. It helps the channel out. Helps us do create more content like this. There is a lot of stuff coming up. This is just the beginning of the season. Here we have the new Lord of the Rings show coming out. We have the new Game of Thrones show. Star Trek is coming back. Strange New Worlds Lower Decks next week. We'll start reviewing that as well. So subscribe so you don't miss any of our upcoming content, and we really appreciate it. All right, so spoilers ahead. What do you want to get into? We can jump around. I mean, the beginning actually is pretty interesting. The way that they set up the beginning with her basically her great responsibility speech.
Right. That was actually pretty fascinating. That they were trying to take a stab at that from Spider-Man, and then
but from a different perspective though, because she's very much a reluctant hero, similar to how Peter was like a reluctant hero, and that kind of bit him in the butt in a major way, seeing as how he could have stopped the person who killed his uncle. Nothing as dire happens to her, but she is, even at the end of this episode, she's still not totally on board with like using her power to, and she has some good points too. Like the point that she makes to Bruce later on in the episode is that, I can help people in other ways. I went to school. I went to school. I studied hard. I'm in major debt. This is how I decided to help people. I want to help people in this way. So, Yeah. So
this is a good example of those people that went to school, have a lot of debt, and they still have to have a professional life in
yeah,
order to pay off those debts. I think
yeah,
that you and I are very much in that
exactly.
so it's very interesting to kind of
So that was
see it from that.
very relatable. Yes.
Yes.
So, I understood exactly where she was coming from. It's like,
Yeah,
listen,
which is great,
listen.
which is a great thing that they kind of it's very good that I think all these type of characters that we've reviewed, a lot of the Disney Plus shows we reviewed, we're able to kind of hit different parts of our humanity.
Yeah.
Talked about like in the last part about Ms. Marvel, like how history and family are so important, and that they're also that you can relate to that from that standpoint. The immigrant family experience, or just any type of family experience, and now it's just like this. This is really talking about the career woman working her way up, or working into a career and trying to help in ways that are non-Avenger like.
Right.
And what also struck me was that it was the mansplaining really it hits hard in this episode. It's really interesting that they kind of hit that right at the beginning too.
It's funny. They definitely have this lawyer, but this lawyer actually shows up in the comics, so it's not like and it's a lawyer that is always under her skin, always trying to like compete with her in the comics as well. So it's not like a modern. Again, I have a bitter taste in my mouth when I say when I use woken like quotes to make fun of people who say woke in a terrible way. But yeah, it's not a very modern thing, because this guy that is telling her to smile and wants to basically take the lead. He's a jerk in the comics as well, and he's been a jerk since the 80s.
So it's nothing new. You're saying it's
nothing new.
Yeah,
No.
Exactly.
But yeah, I really appreciate the way that they frame this. What is the power? What is the responsibility of those with power? And yeah. So I think the case that she's arguing here is about negligence, and that's the point that she's making there.
Yep.
So yeah, and then really early on, we actually get her fourth wall breaking before we get the flashback. So she starts talking to the screen, and again, I mean, many people on the internet have pointed this out. But if you don't know, Deadpool was not the first one to do this. She was one of the first ones in the MCU to do this. And as a matter of fact, she existed way before Deadpool, so she was definitely first. So her this is not only does she talk to the audience in the comic book. Sometimes she like tears the page to like go to another part of the comic quicker. Like she moves between panels and things like that, so she knows everything is like she knows just she's in a comic book and she just swings with it. So yeah, it's very much like her character in the comics. So yeah, then we get the flashback of a few months ago, and yeah, this we finally get an explanation for why this thing was on his hand, and why he was in human form in Shang-Chi last year. Took us almost an entire year, because remember that movie came out at the beginning of September, and people were like speculating, why is he? I mean, he was talking about in Endgame that he spent 18 months in the lab and he put them together. Why is he in human form? So we get an explanation here. He put himself in human form to try to heal his arm. So this is suppressing his powers. Which is also
this is all very interesting stuff, kind of like filling in the gaps for us nerds that are like, what happened to this? Why is it that way? This whole conversation really kind of fill in the gaps, and also it brings up questions. Her theories on Steve Rogers, which was kind of like in some ways kind of out of left field, but then in some ways it's great.
Yeah.
I do appreciate. So this is the one running gag throughout the episode, and it definitely pays off at the very end
Oh yeah,
of the
I love
episode.
it. Oh, so good.
Yeah. I mean, this is the first time we hear about it, but we hear about it again at the end credit scene or the mid credit scene.
Mhm.
And when this is, like I said, the one and only time where I laughed out loud, and then when they cut, um, when he basically says, I guess she was haranguing him for like days about this, and he basically broke down and said, well, he lost his virginity to a girl at on the USL tour. I guess this is before he met Peggy, um, but.
Yeah,
So,
this was definitely before Peggy, and also if we remember from Winter Soldier, Natasha was pretty much egging him on as well. Like, have you ever been with a woman?
Yeah.
Before you were in the ice? So it's like it's been going on for a long time.
She did ask like when was the last time you kissed someone, or have you? I don't think she said have you ever kissed someone? She was like, so yeah, she had some very similar questions. A lot of the women in the MCU are very interested in whether or not Steve Rogers is getting any loving, I guess, or any action.
I guess so. I mean, look at him. I mean, he's as Ant-Man eloquently said, that's America's butt. It's like everyone's interested. Even she was hypnotized by the male gaze of his behind. So
Yeah, and then they cut off the F-bomb here again, just like I think with Aunt May in the first Spider-Man movie. She's just like Captain America gets down. Yeah, so that's when I laughed out loud. They cut it exactly. It was very funny.
But you do feel happy for Steve, though, But I do want to say one thing is that even though you go from world-ending disaster to world-ending disaster, it doesn't mean that he doesn't have any chance to do that. That is. I mean, come on now. I mean, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So this is interesting. That this wasn't spoiled for me, but apparently it was spoiled for some people on the internet. This is Sakaran's ship. It basically looks like the Grandmaster. Looks like the Grandmaster's ship, but it's painted differently. His ship was had brighter colors, but
yellow and red, I think.
Yeah, it was like red. It had some red accents as well. So it's so I know when I saw it definitely looked familiar, but when later on in the episode, Bruce confirms it's Sakaran. So
this all brings up lots of speculation about what's next for
what the message is. Yeah, what the message.
Yeah, there you go.
It's a message ship. So what message is being sent? So yeah, there's all kinds of speculation about maybe it's a message about a child that he fathered when he was there or something like that. So one more thing before we roll on here is that the whole Cheetos with chopsticks, I didn't know that was a thing. Like is that a thing? Like I don't. So
people.
I hadn't seen it before except for what's his name, Oscar Isaac apparently was doing that on set. Like he was eating Cheetos with chopsticks on the Moon Knight set. Which was interesting. So I don't know if maybe they were shooting at the same time, and then someone put it in the script of the She-Hulk show, because they shoot a lot of these things down in Atlanta, and then they go other places for when they need to pick things up. So I don't know if Oscar Isaac was like on, but although I think he was they shot a lot of that of Moon Knight in Budapest. So I don't know. Maybe just it's they're using some of the same production team. But it's a brilliant idea. It's a brilliant idea though, because you never can get the cheese stuff off your fingers. Even if you lick your fingers, you basically have your fingers discolored for the next couple days until it fades away.
It is very interesting because actually I was watching this show with this episode with my brother, and he was commenting, we have a family member that does that too. It's like she does that, and I was like, should she trademark this, like trademark the chopstick with the Cheetos?
It's a smart idea. It's a good idea.
Yeah.
It's the one drawback to the Cheetos, because they definitely do leave a stain. Besides the drawback of it not being very healthy, it all to eat Cheetos. So yeah, they get in this accident, and she uses not necessarily Hulk strength, but like panic strength to pull this door open because she thinks that he might be dead. But yeah, this is how she gets infected, which is different than the comics, because in the comics he makes a decision to give her a blood transfusion. But I don't think, and I've seen people complain about that, like this is too fast, but like this is a completely different universe than the 616. This Bruce would never have given his blood to her because he thinks that he has a curse. If you remember the movie, and I know we're like 30 something movies in or whatever now, but like the second movie that the MCU did, when Bruce was a different actor, he was freaking out about the doctor like making like he was duplicating his blood over and over again, like because he was trying to do I forget what his name is, the doctor who's going to become the Thinker, or that was helping him out,
Mr. Blue. Blue.
Yeah, so he replicated his blood, and he freaked out about that because he knows how dangerous his blood is. So there's no way that in this universe that he would have given her a blood transfusion. So it makes more sense to make it an accident.
Right.
So yeah,
makes sense.
Yeah. Also, people were complaining about this. Like, you didn't see him change. This was on purpose. This is a nod to the show, the old, like, whatchamacallit show.
Incredible Hulk show.
The Incredible Hulk show. You would just see him, freak out like this. And like, we've seen him change several times before. It's not like, we don't need to see him change here. We've seen his face actually change in the movies several times. They were doing a nod to the show. We saw her change in this show. So it's not like they didn't have the money. People were saying that like they cheaped out because they didn't have the money. They spent a lot of money. They spent a lot of money on CGI in this one episode alone, and we saw her face change. So if they wanted to do that, they could have done it. They didn't decide to do that. This is supposed to be like an homage to the old 70s show. Well, whatever.
Right.
People nitpick weird things.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that is true. I mean, we've seen it in Avengers Age of Ultron. We've seen it in Thor Ragnarok. So we've seen it, even though like people have been clamoring, like some fans have been clamoring for him to have a standalone movie, because of rights issues, they can't do it. We've seen some progression of the Hulk throughout, from the beginning of the MCU with like you said, with Ed Norton all the way to Endgame. So there is a story that's there, even though it's in bits and pieces. It's still there, and even you may make an argument that him being in Shang-Chi, kind of like, again, that's another part of the story. And then in this one, you'll see later on that. Yeah, we'll get more as time. Yeah,
we definitely get more of his story in this episode as well. So anyway, she freaks out. She runs into the woods, and she wakes up similar to the way that Bruce sort of wakes up when he turns into the Hulk. Like, she goes into this savage state, and she ran into the woods, and then she finds herself outside of this bar. So yeah, this scene was interesting. So there's actually a barcode, I think, on the screen right there. If you scan this barcode, you'll get the first episode of Sensational She-Hulk. So you can scan that. You go back to the episode. If you can go back, or you can actually just pause the video right now. It'll and scan it right now to get the first a comic book. I'm glad they started doing this. I forget which show they started to do it with. I think it was like it might have been Moon Knight, the first one that they did it, because I don't remember it being in. I don't remember it being in Hawkeye.
Like, could it be in Spider-Man also? It's Spider-Man No Way Home. Maybe. I have to look. I have to go back and look. I maybe, yeah.
So yeah, now it's like hunt for where the barcode is going to be in every episode now.
Yes.
So. Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff on the screen, on the scribbled on the wall back here that we could go into, but really you could just watch a breakdown video about that. I mean, I don't think there's anything particularly interesting or super interesting about the stuff that's in the back there. It's just basically a bunch of Iron Man and Spider Man references and things like that. So yeah, these women come in, they help her out. See that she was like in a rough state. It's interesting juxtaposing how the women treat her compared to these dudes.
Yeah.
So this is, I think, is another complaint that someone said about like this is like man hate. I don't think this is man hate. This is just like the situation of how women have to deal with like BS like this. I heard that it's funny. Like what's funny to me is that we often overcorrect based upon the complaining that the dominant and the more powerful people in our society do. Like they complain, they complain, and they complain, and we overcorrect. So a lot of women I saw had issues with this episode because they thought it was too heavy-handed. But when the episode actually aired, there were a lot of men who weren't even aware that things like this happened. So there was a point in putting it in here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
it does spark a lot of discussion, and I think that after my brother and I watched this episode, we did get into discussion about this, and so I think that I definitely agree with you, Nathan. He said about the same things that you're saying. I just feel that I mean it's not man hate. It's more like I think for me it's reality. More like it's reality, and also. Women get hit on all the time.
Yeah, and
much more so than any guy would ever realize. The amount of like if you're on dating sites or you're DMing someone on Instagram, it is thousands, maybe hundreds and maybe thousands of like requests and things like that. So it's and it can get overwhelming and overbearing, and at the same time, some people would say that the dialogue where the guy was saying, well, I was just trying to be nice, well, that's not necessarily true. It's to her it wasn't actually very nice.
It's like
even though you're trying to be
guys,
nice, that's necessarily mean that the Jennifer there was saying that you're being nice, even though the person was saying it, and the group of men were saying that, it doesn't necessarily mean that she feels that way. So it's like, so it's very interesting to kind of get into that, in that dynamic, and also, yes, there is, like you said, Nathan, there is a sense of overcorrection that comes into play, from the dominant perspective, and it just leads to a lot of discussion and how to kind of see it from a woman's perspective. That is very, it's very, it's very interesting in that regard.
Yeah, I think that the points that Jen makes later on in this episode, so I think they hit this point twice. They hit it here, but they also hit later on when she's explaining that she's always afraid or angry, but she also has to temper those emotions, because if she didn't have Hulk powers here and she responded in with fright or anger here, her point is that's a dangerous situation for her. Like unhulked, she's like 5'3" and like 100 and something pounds, and there are three guys here, right? Like she does have to fear for her safety and sometimes her life, and this is a situation that a lot of women have. I mean, it's like I don't have this experience, and I have to think about this all the time whenever like I'm walking, like there are all kinds of issues that I experience as being like a black dude in America, but I don't have this, and I never have this. I travel around the world without worrying much. I've walked down dark alleys and things like that. There are a lot of things that I know I probably would never do as a woman in the world. So yeah, it's interesting to actually put yourself and be empathetic and actually put yourself in this perspective so you can understand other people better. I think it's valuable. So
Yes.
I don't.
And to say that it's man hate, I think that's also an overcorrection as well. It's like, no, it's not man hate whatsoever. It's just, again, it offers a perspective that you're not familiar with.
Right.
And it's important for you, and it's important for women and men to understand these perspectives that that people have. And it's just like what we said about with Ms. Marvel, what we said about, even with WandaVision, with grief, dealing with grief and trauma, we are given all these type of human sides of who we are. Even when we talked about Eternals, it's like, I like the fact that we're taking this journey to this journey of humanity, and how we examine ourselves through comic books and through these superheroes. I like the fact that happens, and I think that some people just see it for just comic books, straight on comic books. They want the superhero fights, good versus evil, and things like that. But I really appreciate the fact that, particularly in this show, I think, but also in the shows that I've mentioned, they have these type of perspectives that we can kind of dive into and then take a journey with them. Whether it's, and also we can also mention like Falcon and Winter Soldier. We talked a lot about race relations in the United States and how it relates to. Now, some people that are some of our international audiences may not kind of see that perspective, but at the same time, it was very valuable for us to learn, as comic book fans and nerds, to kind of again hear these different types of perspectives and to just be open-minded about it. And I think that that's the most important thing, is to be open-minded and not just look at it from the standpoint of, oh, it's man hate. It's overcorrection. Just take it for what it is. Yes, you can have a rich discussion. You can have a debate about it, and hopefully talk about it so that again you're more enlightened and more and just like have a different worldview about things that are happening.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's a way that you could in this show and maybe Falcon and the Winter Soldier and maybe Miss Marvel without mentioning like real stuff, but like they would have been boring. It would have been like seeing the texture, like how people actually live and the things that people actually have to deal with. I understand this is a fantasy show, but like lots of things happen. And lots of real world things are put in fantasies for allegorical purposes, to reflect this society, and it's useful. So yeah,
it is.
Anyway, so she hulks out there, which is something that not all women can do. So and then Bruce tackles her, and then she wakes up in Mexico. So I do
have a theory about this, is that whether or not this is very close to where Venom was. I was thinking, hey, did he bump into Venom somehow, some way? Because
I don't know. This right here, the shot kind of looks like that.
That's what I'm saying. I was like, it's like, did Venom visit that place, and that Bruce hired that guy to be a stand-in?
Yeah.
Maybe not.
Maybe.
No.
So he has a Ultron skull here. He also has like his Sakaran helmet in the background, if you see it there. So he has a bunch of his own, his trophies or mementos from his life. So yeah, we get the explanation here that she's a Hulk now. It's not something he can reverse, and it's because they have very special family DNA. And apparently she metabolizes the gamma radiation even better than he does, because he used it to heal his arm. So that's an interesting little tidbit here. I think this conversation ends with her freaking out a little bit. And then we split over to I think he gets down at her level, which I sometimes forget to do when I'm talking to people, especially like when I'm talking to little kids. But it's definitely like an act of empathy. to get down to someone's level and talk to them eye to eye, and then we get the jump. I think this the setup here is that she's going to freak out and she's going to Hulk out, but she doesn't. She just needs some comfort food. And then they have this conversation. It's so funny how eager he is. He's like, it's someone else in my situation. It doesn't work out anyway at all the way that he wants it to, because she's in general, she's just a healthier person than he is. Like, they didn't really touch on this in the MCU Hulk movie, but they touched on it in the Ang Lee Hulk movie. Like, his father was abusive. Like, they didn't really, they don't, part of the reason that he has a Hulk persona is because I think he has a little bit of DID as well, similar to Moon Knight, because of all of his trauma. And she's just a healthier person.
Yeah. And it's also funny because, like, it's the whole cliche about, like, how, I've been through this situation, so I want to stop you from being in this situation that I went through, all this crap and stuff like that I went through. But you're right, she is a different person. She is a much healthier person and living a much healthier life than he did. So there, she had to remind him later on that I'm different than you, even though we share similar qualities and there's some similarities. We're still different, and that speaks to a lot of family members that are like that. In our own families, we have different perspectives, different life experiences, and things like that. So this part was actually, this has been shown in the previews, on the trailers, online and stuff like that. I find it very interesting that she was. I think that that's a good piece of acting, that she was able to kind of be freaking out in a way, but then be very humorous about it. But then, like, she was able to Hulk out and then, like, push the blades away. So I found that 1 minute clip right there very, very it's very good acting, I would say, from Tatiana Maslany.
She's exceptional. And if you haven't seen Orphan Black, you should definitely see Orphan Black. She's acting. She's acting more than most people have to act in that show, because she's playing multiple characters in every single episode. Whereas like I think some actors, they might get a little bit complacent because they know who the character is, and they don't have to act that much to get in and out of a character. And that show, she couldn't get comfortable in one character. She had to play multiple characters pretty much, like I said, in every episode, which is interesting. She definitely knows how to modulate and do the subtleties, because even in this show, even in this episode, when she's changing to She-Hulk, she's still herself. She's just carrying herself with a little bit more confidence because she's 6'7". Because she's 6'7". So yeah. Yeah.
But I always gravitate to that scene because it was funny, it was dramatic, it was scary, and then she hulks out at the end. So it was like all sorts of different combinations there of a range of emotions that she was emoting, during that clip.
Yeah. The other good part of this scene was at the end here, when he's trying to convince her to that she needs him, because I think to his point, she doesn't understand how strong she is now, and she can really hurt someone even with a little bit of like just unintentionally. So she does acquiesce to the training, and the training montage is, I mean, it's funny in places, but it's mostly just like her mastering a bunch of stuff very, very, very quickly and annoying the heck out of him because she's mastering things so quickly. But I think it was still useful, because at the beginning she didn't know how to change. She didn't know how to change the air horn thing. And I think a lot of his points are also useful as well. So about the spandex,
without having to actually mansplain, I would say it was definitely kind of like
Yeah.
look, I understand where you're coming from, but these are the experience that I experienced, and also,
Hmm.
you have to be very careful about who you are now because of the, because yes, you could hurt someone,
Yeah.
and kill someone.
Yeah. His other point is, yeah. Like I said, his other point is that once people start seeing you as a monster, there's no coming back from that. So he's trying he's
Exactly.
trying to look out for her.
Exactly.
So yes, probably why he still lives by himself. Um, yeah.
Yeah.
She's kind of making fun of all the testosterone stuff here. It's man,
Yes.
man.
Yeah. It's funny. But it's but
But
it's
even
also very interesting is that there's a lot of I've heard, what, as I kind of looked online and stuff like that, they're say, elements of some fans saying, oh, you kind of like made the Hulk not the Hulk anymore. But I'm like, it's just look, he's still going through his journey. It's like
I mean
you're not yeah, you're
he's the
not
Hulk. He's
yeah,
just a different kind. I mean this one has a
exactly,
smaller body than the than the
exactly.
than the than the one that showed up in Ragnarok because he's merging his body. He's merging himself with the other one. I mean he's still the Hulk though. I mean I don't. Are they complaining that she is good at things that so
No,
quickly?
no, I don't, no, it's not that. It's just like that you're used to the Incredible Hulk, or
Oh,
or
him
or like the one
him
that just
raging
like
out.
raging out and stuff like that. But I'm like, he's you're again, this is called storytelling. You're going
Yeah,
through a journey with the character. There's going to be highs and lows. There's going to be different phases. There's going to be different types of. That's what makes it compelling. Even if you only enjoy one part of the story that you like the rage part of the story, great. Enjoy that part of the story when
yeah,
it
but
does
like,
come.
but
But
the thing
but there's a modulation to it. You know.
but there's also at certain point you can't compare the comics to a movie or a television show where people expect growth, right? Like
Hmm.
in a comic book, you have to reset the characters because the characters you can't kill them off because it's too valuable to the company to kill them off. So we've talked about this before. Comic books are more like soap operas where they play the same kind of like they have the same sort of plot points over and over again. So Bruce loses his powers, or Bruce has a block, or becomes Professor Hulk, but then he loses his Professor Hulk thing because they want to reset him. Those things happen over and over again. He never really resolves any of his issues. I think the only person who's actually resolved their issues in the comics is maybe Tony with his alcoholism, which it didn't even do
Hmm.
which it didn't even do in the MCU. But like Peter's pretty much always down on his luck in the comics to a certain extent. Like there's no resetting, but like in a television show or a movie, if you don't have any resolution or any kind of growth, then what is the point of all the things that are happening to these people that it doesn't change them or make them a different person, especially
Hmm.
Bruce, who's been in the MCU for over 10 years now.
Yeah.
He has to be a different person than he was at the beginning.
Correct. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
And also even in Endgame, he was. I mean, people did not like. Some people did not like his portrayal in Endgame, but again, that's part of his journey where he was like, like when they went back in time and he was kind of embarrassed about how he was how he was in 9 years ago at that
Yeah.
time, 2023 to 2012. How embarrassed he was. He's like, oh my god, I can't believe I was that guy. But I mean, humans go through that all the time,
Yeah.
Aren't you embarrassed about things that happened to you 9 years ago? Yeah, of course you do,
Yeah.
You grow. Exactly, like you said, you grow.
Yeah. Which is what you would hope for in a character. Otherwise, the watching a movie or watching a television show gets boring. You could do something else
Yeah.
with your time. So yeah, we had a whole montage there with their training. He throws her off a cliff during that montage, and we also find out that there's that they metabolize alcohol differently. He's a little wistful about Tony a few times in this episode. So like he it's the first when he shows her the lab, he says that Tony always used to joke that he would come and take it back, but now he can't never take it back because he's gone. And then they talked about Tony a little bit here at the bar as well. So it's interesting to think about all the in between scenes that we haven't seen about their friendship and how close they were, because that they did the Science Bro thing in like Ultron and kind of created a issue for people. Like their Science Bro stuff probably ran from the first Avengers all the way through Ultron, and then he went away for 2 years because he was in space. But after Infinity War, they probably reconnected and deepened their friendship, and now Tony's gone, unfortunately. So yeah,
yeah.
So yeah, this is the conversation where she's talking about the fact that she has to control her anger all the time because of otherwise she'll be labeled emotional, or it could put herself in danger, because if she reacts angrily to a man, his feelings might get hurt, and he might just use his physical force against her. So it's interesting. It was an interesting conversation here.
That was definitely very heavy. When she said those things, it was definitely very heavy, but true. I mean, it definitely was very honest, and he was definitely taken aback by it. But I think that at the end, Bruce was able to grow a lot more as well because of this experience that he had with Jen. He grew as well, which is a good thing. That he was able to kind of at the end say, I kind of understand. If you want to go back to being a lawyer, I completely understand it. You don't need my help anymore, but I'm always going to be there for you. So that's very touching. That's like that's what family members do. Yeah, we are different, but they're still family. So it's great.
I appreciate how they modulate. So the last time we saw the Hulk snap was actually in the Incredible Hulk movie. He hasn't done it in any of the Avengers movies, so this is the first time we've seen it since then. And I appreciate the way that they made hers a little bit different. Like she might not be as strong as he is, but it's just basically the same as the the sonic blast that they used in the Incredible Hulk movie to subdue him. She figured out something very, very similar. So yeah, it's also the way that he moves. Like here, when they break up the bar, he's a lot smaller than he's not a lot smaller. He's smaller by maybe, because I think here he's like 7 something, maybe 8, maybe 8 feet. Whereas in the Ragnarok movie, he's closer to 10 feet. So, but he's still so very bulky. So his limbs move in a very similar way. So like when he's upset here, you can see how he pounds the ground. It reminds me of like Ragnarok when like Hulk was upset with Thor and he's moving around and he's so bulky. It's like it looks like he looked like a giant baby basically.
Exactly.
So yeah, it was funny.
And so, also, this is the part where at the end he's like, "You're helping me fix this. You ruined my bar, so help me fix it." It's like, okay, all right, fight's over.
This is where she does the fourth wall break a little as well. So yeah, they reconcile. She gets to carve her initials into the bar. And that's basically, I mean, like you said, they reconcile. They go their separate ways. I don't know if Bruce is going to show up again in the show, but yeah. Then we go back to the courtroom, and this courtroom scene is very short because, for some reason, and this is not really explained, Titania breaks in here, played by Jamil, and she starts wrecking things, and then Jen has to transform. And this is actually I didn't notice this until I rewatched the episode. Her friend basically does a callback to her speech, because her speech, her closing argument was going to be, what is his civic duty? and her friend says it's your civic duty to do something.
Yeah. Civic
Um,
duty to be a superhero.
yeah, it's your civic duty.
Yeah.
It's I also like the little beat here. She's going to ruin her clothes, but her friend reminds her, take off your shoes so you don't ruin your shoes too. So
shoes are expensive.
Shoes are expensive, yeah. Especially women's shoes can be very, very expensive.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this scene, the transformation looks really good, but the wire work that they have here with Jamil doesn't look. She hung in the air very weirdly right here. They could have done a better job here. It's a nitpick, but it was like the action they had earlier with her fighting her cousin was a bit better than this.
Probably because of CGI, though, right? I mean, that's definitely much more CGI.
Sure, but they've had. I mean, Shang-Chi didn't have any CGI in the fight. The fights were better. They just choreographed them better, or they staged them better. So yeah, this is that basically is the end of the episode, and then we're treated to in the credits. So I was I thought there was just drawings, but someone I think I was watching this on watching or reading something earlier today. This is like, how the courtroom has the drawings.
Yep, the
so
sketches.
This is basically this is courtroom sketches. This is just courtroom sketches.
Yeah, it's really, really nice. It's really nice. Kind of like it's very different from what Ms. Marvel had. When we had with Ms. Marvel, it's different. It's still awesome. I mean, both are still really awesome and just like well done, but it's just different in a good way. Yeah.
And then they have them shopping at the bulk store, her buying spandex and him buying cheese puffs.
So this is more like kind of like filling in for
filling in the gap. So like him trying to put the door back on the thing that she broke off here, and them having a more detailed conversation about
Captain
America's virginity.
Yeah.
I guess this is a scene that we'll see later on because I think this is her entire family here. But yeah, we even see some scenes from later on that kind of come from the comics, like Venice Beach. There are a bunch of like bodybuilders on Venice Beach, but everyone, no one it would be as impressive as her. So the expression on this guy's face is funny. Yeah, I think this is basically scenes from later on when she starts to kind of lean into it and kind of start liking the attention.
Right.
So yeah, and we already talked about the after credit scene. So yeah, we've been talking almost an hour, or actually an hour, about this 34-minute show. So, but there was a lot of stuff to get into. So hopefully our conversation next week will be shorter, because I think all the episodes are like about 30-something minutes. They're like it's supposed to be like a sitcom. So yeah.
Yeah, it was 38 minutes. Oh yeah, without the credits. Sorry, it's 34. You're right.
Yeah. Yep. So, all right. Any other thoughts before we wrap up?
No, I'm enjoying this. Again, like I said, I just like these different aspects of humanity that they're exploring. There's been a lot of criticism about Phase 4, but it really does kind of bring up all those different aspects, and taking that journey with the audience and also with the characters really, again, it really broadens your mind, and also kind of, again, makes you want to think about certain things about your life and how you grow as an individual. So it's good allegorical things that people hopefully are going to discuss in the future.
Yeah. Well, that is what we think, but we are interested to hear what you guys think. So please comment down below. Like and subscribe, because, as I said, we have a lot of things coming up. House of Dragon will be on Sunday. Lower Decks will be next week. And Stargirl is coming out as well soon. We have some screeners for those, so we will do some reviews of all that stuff. So, and also, meet us back here next week when we talk about She-Hulk again. All right, guys. Thanks. Bye.